Welcome to the show that explores the methods and strategies on rocking the financial side of your music business. With over 40 years combined experience, here are your hosts, Chris Webb and Dave Tampkin.
Welcome to Musicians Tip Jar, where we talk about musicians and money. As we get older, we remember all the people we lost along the way, which also reminds us why being hiking guides was probably a bad choice. I'm Chris Webb, joined by my co-host and my personal dad joke guide, Dave Tampkin.
Thanks for having me back, Chris. It's good to be here. Looking forward to this very in-depth review of how you keep me in line through all these podcasts.
In today's episode, we dive into all the key ways you can get personalized help to grow your music business and your career, because no one makes it alone in this industry. Today's quote comes from Denzel Washington. "Show me a successful individual, and I'll show you someone who had real positive influences in their life. A mentor."
Was that inspiring for you? Because it's the only one that I added to this one. Just don't be expecting any more inspiring quotes. That's all I'm saying. This week's nonprofit is Women in Music, the industry's leading nonprofit dedicated to education, support, empowerment, and recognition for musicians. Founded in 1985, WIM now has chapters worldwide and offers memberships and mentorship programs, seminars, and a supportive community, especially for women in the music industry. Nonprofits like WIM and others, such as Grammy Foundation's initiatives, are invaluable resources where you can find mentors, networking events, and workshops, often at a low or no cost. They exist to empower artists like you. So consider exploring the programs as you seek guidance in your career. Learn more at womeninmusic.org. If you find this information useful, everyone, please rate and subscribe to the podcast, and also slam that like button on YouTube so we can help keep you up on the finance side of your business.
Today, we explore how you, as a musician, can find personal guides to boost your career and income. We'll break down the 5 major support paths, which are mentorship, accountability partners, community, formal instruction, and DIY resources. By the end of this, you'll know how each of these can accelerate your artistic growth and financial empowerment. We'll have real examples, inspiring quotes, and practical tips for accessing these supports. Let's go.
Chris, why are we discussing this today?
To count the ways. You know, it's funny because we're always trying to figure out the best way to get to where we want to go to the fastest possible, right? And so often that means put your head down and do the work. But there's also this other aspect that we forget how much more we can accomplish together or with the influence of other people. And as you become the successful person, this is something you're going to crave to want to give back, to give other people a quicker start. A lot of times when you're looking at courses and all the stuff that we'll talk about, it's because people wanted to give other people a quicker chance to get to where they got to, right? It feels really good to give back. So why are we discussing this? Because you're going to spend a lot more time doing this alone if you don't get help. Just within the earning potential, I found a study from the Wharton School of Business where they found that these earn $25,000 more annually on average than those that didn't have a mentor. And that's just in general business. I think in the music industry, this would probably be way higher because it's also about the connections they provide.
Well, I found in LinkedIn Learning in 2021, because once I heard you were doing research, I did research too. Mentees report a 40% increase in soft skills such as communication, leadership, and emotional intelligence.
Yeah, those are big because communication and leadership, I don't think they come naturally for most people. And those are things that you can't really understand what good examples of them look like until you've had a mentor that's good at it. It's just something that most of us don't instinctively understand. I had another one too from the U.S. Small Business Administration, which we all call the SBA. Probably had to deal with them before if you're a music business owner.
I was gonna say, do you just call them the SBA?
Yeah.
You're that familiar with them?
Yes. You haven't had to send them stuff? Especially during COVID, my God.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is my example of survival. 70% of small businesses that receive mentoring survive more than 5 years. And as we know, that 5 years is a big marker for the odds of your business succeeding long term. So that's double the survival rate of non-mentored businesses. The biggest thing for me about that is that there's statistics that show the difference of survival clearly is way better for people who have mentors versus those that don't. So what we're talking about here is trying to give you those odds that increase 70% just by making deliberate choices to get some support in these areas that we're going to talk about. So let's start with the first one, unlocking your potential, the power of the music mentorship. So what is a music mentor? A music mentor is typically an experienced individual in the music industry, can be a seasoned musician, a producer, a manager, a sound engineer. Even successful songwriters are great mentors to have, all depending on what it is you're trying to do. They will offer you knowledge and insights, lessons that they've learned along the way, things that can shortcut your journey and help develop yourself as an artist or as a musician. Their roles extend beyond just giving you advice, though, of course. They provide a personalized roadmap. They help you identify your strengths, refine your craft, and navigate the challenges of the industry. They can also tell you things that you're wasting your time on that you may not realize you're wasting your time with.
Just think of 10,000 hours as a musician, how long you've practiced to get that time in. And they say that's 3 hours a day on average as someone, that works to get those 10,000 hours. And all the information you have from a producer or manager that have already put in those 10,000 hours that you can lean on for information that you would never have that time in your life to know about those things, to get an edge.
The impact of mentorship has been shown over and over again. There's a reason that most businesses, that people that are rising to the top of traditional business, part of the journey is expected to have mentors and include some sort of mentorship program. In one Berklee College of Music survey, they found 92% of musicians said mentorship positively affected their careers, making them happier with their trajectory and even leading to higher earnings than those without the mentorship.
I mean, imagine having someone there that you don't have to bang your head against the wall to figure out problems that they've already solved so many years ago, and have seen people repeatedly make these mistakes that you can avoid that now because of their expertise.
Just as legends like Dr. Dre guided Eminem in his ascent, I mean, yes, they're providing them opportunity, but they're also guiding their choices. David Bowie influenced Lou Reed. Ever tell you I met Lou Reed once?
No. Can you start from the beginning and leave nothing out?
I know. I'll give the short story, though. I was working as a caterer for just a small catering company, and we got catered to do a funeral. And at the funeral, this was in St. Charles, Illinois. This was not in a place where you would think this is going to occur. And at the house where the funeral is, it's just like an after party, That's probably not what you call after a funeral. What do they call that? The wake. During that time, I heard some music playing in one of the bedrooms. I literally was like walking around with a dish full of, hors d'oeuvres. And I heard people playing guitar and singing. And I, as a musician, and I was in my teens, like late teens, I opened the door and sitting on the bed is Lou Reed and like 4 other people playing guitars, just hanging out in the room. I was like, what is going on here? So it turns out that he was his wife's family member. So he was there for that. So yeah, I got to sit there and listen to them just play some songs. They didn't mind. They were super nice about it. I mean, kind of an amazing experience for me. I know I was trying to be somber with the occasion, but they weren't being somber. They were having a good time. So whatever. But that was my Lou Reed experience.
Well, much better than opening up with the casket and seeing Lou Reed.
That's true, but wasn't that long after that.
2013, he passed.
Yeah. Anyways, back to this point of finding those strong mentors can be a catalyst to trajectory on your music journey. For a lot of people, this is a massive shortcut. So by actively seeking and fostering these relationships, you can gain a significant advantage in building and fulfilling your music career. So that being said, how do you find a mentor? Now, we wanted to give these to you because we don't want you just to be like, oh, I need a mentor, and then just kind of end there, right? Or just kind of go for the low-hanging fruit. You play guitar, right?
Yeah.
So what we want to do is give you some places where you might actually find some quality options for this. And, the other thing about this is it doesn't need to be too formal. A mentor doesn't need to sign a contract, right? So what we're trying to do is give you places where you might attract the right fit for you, but don't think of this as being like you need to bring up a proposal like it's a marriage or something. So the first place that you can go is to these music workshops or to these courses. Enrolling in some sort of workshop or specialized music courses was where somebody's already offering their mentorship option to you, right? So you're going to pay for it, but a lot of times you're going to pay for the great mentors anyways, no matter what. So instructionals or music courses can be a really good place to start with this. And yes, these are mentorships because these are experienced people giving you their knowledge in a shortcut way. Another one is organizations that offer structured programs. For instance, the Grammy U by the Recording Academy. They can pair you with emerging artists and industry veterans, especially if you're in places where there's a mecca of this stuff like LA or New York.
You have to check out Musician Guidance as well. They connect indie artists to experienced producers, managers, even Grammy winners for one-on-one mentoring, but it's like a la carte. It's pretty awesome. I'll put a link in the website for everyone to check out.
And then another one, no matter where you are, you can look for networking events and attend music conferences that are anywhere around the world. But the closer to you, the easier these are. But sometimes you do got to travel to find these things. Local songwriter meetups are another option. Industry panels, even in your city or the city closest to you, they'll have industry panels. A lot of times, like the city will put them on and offer kind of like a free boost to their local community with having these industry panels. And so a mentor relationship often starts with just a simple conversation of meeting these people at these events.
And don't be afraid to reach out directly. Send a polite professional email or social media message requesting a short meeting or advice to any like local artist or producer that you might know or admire. It is Memorial Day weekend. Many veterans, not these kind of veterans, are happy to pay it forward, which is what we talked about earlier before we got on this phone call. But utilize those professional platforms to search them out, but don't be afraid just to send an email. And that's something that even now when we're looking for guests, I learned, I would say 2008, I had a friend that we were starting a business together and he was fearless as far as calling anyone famous, didn't care. And me, I see someone famous, even sites, I was a little like, oh my God, she's on our podcast. But Martin Sexton, met him and I get all weirded out for whatever reason, but he had no problem calling people. And now I got to that point where I just called someone last week. I read a great post about him helping musicians. He has a great website and I hope to bring him on. He had a phone number right there at the end. I just picked up the phone and called right there, left a message saying, we're a wonderful website, wonderful podcast. We're doing the same thing. Love to connect. Sent me text, best voicemail I got all day. And sometimes it's just that easy. And now, going back and forth, and he has a podcast like ours, and hopefully I'll get to learn something from him because he's been doing it a lot longer than us.
That's cool. Sometimes it's in our head that it's so hard to reach them, right? Like the barrier is so thick. But when you look a little harder, you're like, oh, there's a phone number. Another example of that too is at the university, we just had Gregory Alan Isaacoff come in and sit with the students and just kind of chat with them, which is another advantage of being in a community as a school like that. And it was incredible. But while we were sitting there, the other thing that I found out was that one of the other long-term professors, Storm, who we've had on our show.
Season 1.
Yeah, he teaches a lot of business courses. And in one of his courses, he had brought in one of his managers to just kind of talk a guest lecture. And during that, one of the students reached out to the guest, the manager, and was, offered to be involved and just asked for some help. And now she's been one of his long-term tour managers for the last umpteen years since then. So those kind of things too, it's like you're just asking for opportunity, but you're also ready. You're also ready to do the work. And those can lead to the most unexpected ways to great opportunities and careers. And you don't have to be in person to do this. You can also do, and most of this stuff online, there's a lot of forums and groups. Reddit has got a plethora of these, but also anytime you join any of these courses, they're often combined with forums that are especially created for those members. And it can really be a great resource to just throw ideas out there and keep each other in check, which we'll talk about accountabilities here in a second. But this can easily become both of those things. You can find mentors. You can also find accountability partners.
Definitely ask other musicians. Leverage your existing network. You can have a mentor that you've been hanging out with for years and just not know that they can have this experience and maybe a little bit ahead of you in their career that you can learn from. And I'm sure there's something you can offer them as well, too, for place in their career that maybe you might be ahead of.
That's a really good point, that you don't need to find somebody that's at the top, right? Like we often forget that just leaning into our community in a way that like, well, you did something that I want to be able to do. That's enough, right? To just get to sit down for coffee for a 30-minute conversation. And by just buying them coffee, you can find out some shortcuts just to that one thing that you're trying to do.
I know you had a mentor with your finances and real estate. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how it even started?
Well, you know what? I've actually had two, one more for business and one for real estate. And both of them organically happened. One was just my real estate agent, and we just started hanging out. And he into the same kind of concepts of like, a lot of real estate agents are like-minded, to music industry professionals, because we're trying to grow this and build this. And so he was hosting just mastermind groups. And so he invited me to come to those. And I would just start coming, and he was like the whole thing. Like we would build, cup stacks and like just funny things that you do to kind of like talk about the way you approach stuff. And we would just spend time talking about how each of us did what we said we were going to do a month ago when we last met. That was really cool. And that taught me that you are really just absorbing the energy sometimes of other people that are as dedicated to this as you. But he also taught me a lot about the real estate industry and understanding some of those ins and outs that you would have spent so many hours in a book trying to learn some of these basic things. Sometimes just somebody just showing it to you is so much easier, at least from the way I learn, to grasp it quicker. My other mentor was a student that I was teaching guitar to. He's just a very successful business person, and he still is a mentor to me. I've been working with him for over a decade. I basically now exchange my time helping him as a musician to teach him how to play the guitar and sing and write songs in exchange for his continued mentorship of helping me structure my business and make better choices when I'm trying to make business choices, and helping me focus on things that I really wasn't focused on, how to multiply my time as a business owner and all these things that don't come as instinctively when you're the brand. That kind of removal from that concept has been all because of him. So those things have been invaluable to me, and it was never formally like, I'll be your mentor. It was never formal. So I just want to reiterate that, because it's important to know that sometimes these are organic situations occur, and you understand that they're mentoring you. They understand that they're mentoring you, but you're never really making it such like a formal thing. You're just allowing it to occur.
How awesome is that when you're getting together with someone you respect, you became friends with your real estate agent. So now you have this emotional connection too when you're learning. So that helps you learn easier too, when you could put those memories with something that you really enjoy doing. And then your other mentor, you're playing music with. So that too, you have that connection where you're going back and forth, lifting each other up.
Yeah. And that's important, that there's a chemistry, right? No matter any of these that you go with, if you guys don't feel naturally comfortable, it's probably not going to last long. I mean, it's just going to be harder to work.
Well, that's a good transition to accountability partners as well. And you just said that, you were checking in with him too. Did we do everything we said we were going to do last month? So let's move on to the second one, because this is what a good accountability partner does. They know that you haven't seen your wife in 2 weeks, that she's going to fly in to Milwaukee, drive an hour and a half home, get home about midnight, and that you might be up to 3:30 in the morning having drinks by a fire. And you still get up at 8:30 in the morning to clear your throat, take a shower, and get ready for Musician's Tip Jar podcast. Because Chris Webb said, let's do this. Stay committed. I don't care if you haven't seen your wife. Priorities, Dave. Priorities. And I said, you're right. And could take a back seat to Musician's Tip Jar, Chris. I hope she listens to this podcast. But accountability partner is usually just, a peer, someone at a similar stage, whom you agree to exchange mutual support and hold each other accountable for your goals. Having that mutual respect, two equals, checking in, pushing one another to stay motivated and celebrate progress at now 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday after staying up till 3:30. But why does that matter, Chris? Why does it matter?
Well, actually, the main thing that I just took away from what you said was that accountability partners have a magic power to make time, right? We always talk about, we all struggle with time and this concept of, well, I have enough time to do all these things that I need and want. And what I just did for you was made time. You know what I mean? And we sometimes will excuse, it's a lot of times it's our own excuse. Like, I'm going to sleep in because of all the things you just said. And not that they're not valid and not that they're not important, but truthfully, you made them work and you still have time, right?
I will add to that I was taking the dogs for a walk yesterday, and my neighbor Steve said there's a new farmer's market up the road. They had this cheesy bread and scones. Do you want to go? I go, what time? He's like, I can pick you up at 8. I said, do you think we could be back by 8:30? No problem. 8 o'clock, right out in front. I got up, got coffee with him, and got some fresh air, which would have never happened if I wasn't preparing for this, which was so much easier to say yes to him. And I didn't miss out on a great morning.
I love it.
Yeah. So
you're
again,
welcome.
Yeah, I knew that was coming. But it adds a bit of friendly pressure. But I think you and I also have this thing that we care about so much, and we want to show up. No one is making us show up for it. And as much as you're offering your time, we also know that that time is valuable for each other too. I know how hard you work. So if we're going, especially into a weekend, like a holiday weekend, this means something for us to get up and do it. And it is nice to have someone to help you push like that. And if you can do it with social media marketing, if you can do it with learning a new song every week, it's harder to hit snooze when your friend is like, come on, let's get up and get going.
Totally. Well, and let's just offer this maybe as us being mentors to anybody listening right now, is that things are never going to be convenient when it comes to making all of this work. If you want to get this kind of stuff done, I mean, this is how it works. You're making time. That's what you're constantly doing. And last night, I mean, I was playing a show till late too, and I had a hard time going to sleep after that, and then got up early. I'm leaving on an international flight here in hours, and you're making time because these things are important, and that is the only way that they get done. So if I was to say anything out there to anyone, if you're around people that don't make time, it's time to move on. There's an opposite end of this. There is something to remember, that if your accountability partners, because the people around you are influencing you, maybe they're not accountability in the way that you want. Maybe their accountability is, hey, let's play video games for the next 6 hours and then totally blow off the thing that we said we were so going to do tomorrow. Make sure your accountability partners are accountability in a positive way, right? Make sure that they're actually helping push you towards what it is that you want out of all this.
Because we do such a good job week in and week out for not only showing up to talk to each other, but as far as our deadlines are concerned, editing, doing graphics, I also found that I am much more relaxed when you or I have to cancel on something, because we know how much we like doing this. So if there is a reason to like move things, which we both had to do in the past, there's also almost a piece to it for me. Like, it's never a let down feeling, because I know you want to be there, and I know I want to be there. So something has come up, let's make this work.
Yeah, it's a trust.
Yeah,
it's a trust. And that is what you build with accountability partners, is that if something's really occurring, you trust that that's because it's something that's worth the issue, and again, like that, if that was you from last night, staying up till 3 and then blowing this off because you slept through it, that would be a different conversation, right? Like, and you would never do that. And that's the trust. And I think that you build that with certain people, and you see their true colors with certain people, that they're just not in the place to do that. They may not be able to survive this industry because their priorities still are not going to help them, and I think we both were in phases of that in our career as well. So there's empathy there if someone's in that phase, because it may be just where they're at, and you don't need to abandon them completely, but I would not put them as your accountability partner, right? So how do you find good accountability partners? Personally, I think the first thing to do is look for the ones that are working harder than you. I like to look for people in my circles of musicians that are, active, posting a lot, releasing a lot of music, engaging in the community in a lot of ways, and helping other people. When you see musicians that are giving to other people in your community, those are the ones I want to attract myself towards. It could be someone else in your band. Sometimes if you have people in your band that are not accountability partners, you're in trouble. But it can be other people that you're meeting at open mics, or if you're going to those kind of connections or those online music groups and forums. You don't have to dismiss any of this. Those are all potential ways. I met my bass player on Craigslist.
Really?
And yes. And I don't know if that's really the way to go anymore, because I met a lot of people that would not be good fits on Craigslist. But I got lucky, I guess, with that one experience. But you just don't know. You just don't know, but you'll know when you know, right?
And finding that accountability partner, the way they hold you accountable matters as well. I have two accountability partners, Chad and Brad. Chad is the kind, loving, you can do this, Dave. Let's do it. Let's do it one more time. You got this. Hit that note, learn that solo. We got all the time. We're playing music, Dave. And we got Brad. Why don't you know this? I know. I came prepared. I know all my shit. Your name is on this band. Shouldn't you know it more than I know it? Yes, Brad. Yes, Brad. Well, don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Yes, Brad. Yes, Brad. But they're both right,
It's like you got a good cop, bad cop partnership at your band. What if you ever had a fourth member? I'm not sure what their role would be.
No, I'd be afraid.
They'd be the one that takes out the trash.
Yeah. Another accountability partner, and she does this for so many musicians, is Megan Burt with her monthly songwriting group that meet at her house the last Sunday of every month. And so many great musicians show up and they continue every month to write a new song. And that's the thing. You have to write something that's new. And I've gone once or twice and I'm scared shitless of that group because it's such a good job of up and writing a song. And that's why they show up. And I don't.
You can agree that when you go to those places, you feel excited. And that's something that I wanted everyone to take away from this, is what I've seen is that when you feel the adrenaline rush, the true excitement, that excitement that can get lost over the years of trying to pursue this kind of thing. Those are the real places that you want to put your energy and time into, because it's about staying in that. It's about staying motivated and excited. And nervous excitement is good, right? Being, like I mentioned a couple episodes ago, I'm always feeling like if I'm not reaching out and making myself nervous in these potential opportunities, then I'm a little disappointed in myself. And I've learned that over the years, because when you step away, it's very easy to step away into this safe place that doesn't feel exciting. I mean, it doesn't feel threatening, but it also, of course, doesn't feel exciting. So you really need to find ways to stay in those kind of environments. And that's what we're saying with these partners, is you want a partner that makes you feel motivated and excited and challenged and a little nervous and a little overwhelmed. And all of those things are actually the way you grow, right? In order to grow muscle, you have to rip it apart first. You have to do these things in order to progress.
About being comfortable and just relating to this story. And I haven't seen her for 2 weeks because she's been in Nashville training for this new job in a sales role. So she's been in Colorado at the same practice for 10 years. And when she went to the surgeon to say she was quitting, he was championing her. Did I say that right? Championing?
Championing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What is that word? We all know what you mean.
He was rooting for her. By the end, he was like, this is what you need to do. This is a new frontier. I'm going to put you in front of all these different people, all these different doctors, these surgeons. And I'm sure she was scared shitless. But that drive it didn't compare to the 10 years of being comfortable to now there's a new opportunity. And she had to go for it, had to take a risk, and really proud of her. And just to see her glow because of it. But again, a mentor, and the surgeon's wife called her too and said, you're going to do great at this, because they've been friends for 10 years. And she does the same thing that Anne's going to do now. So,
well, I think once you find these partners too, and you agree that you're going to do this, because this is something where versus a mentor, where it doesn't need to be stated necessarily as clearly that well, it often is, but it doesn't have to be stated that you're going to be a mentee with them. Accountability, I do think, is worth communicative effort, being clear that you two are holding each other accountable. Let's do this. Let's help each other, and some of this will happen organically, but it's, I think, more beneficial to be more communicative about what it is you're going to try to hold each other accountable with. So setting very specific goals can be useful if it's just something like writing a new song every month, like Megan does, or it can be practicing a certain amount of hours per week, showing each other the new, or sending like little videos of each other's new licks that you learned on your instrument. It could be that you
Kind of videos. It's just like a weird turn.
it's too early. Or just, getting together once a month to go through these things, whatever it is that you're setting your goals for. But making time and clear objectives with that is really important in order to get the most out of what an accountability partner can offer.
Keep track of that. I mentioned, I think last week, I used Streaks. We had a good one with Streaks. But a Google Sheet, it really makes a difference when you can look back and see all you've done. And even if it's that 1% better every time, that you have somewhere to document that. So make a Google spreadsheet that you both can share, add notes as you go. We do that with notes and who we're going to reach out to, who gets what done. It's just nice to see that progress is being made.
The next one that we wanted to highlight is community. This is about finding your tribe and your network. We talk a lot about this in so many episodes because this is one of those ones where if you aren't a part of a community, you're isolated, right? The opposite of community is isolation, and no musician will ever succeed in isolation. And even if they are in isolation, the rest of the community knows they're in isolation, so they're still a part of the community. I think of like Bon Iver, right? Like he went and wrote that album while letting everyone know he was out by himself writing that album. So it was like not the same, right? Isolation in this context means that you're not connecting with people, that you're not trying to put anything into the community or into the environment of the music industry in your area. And that isolation will only result in dead ends. So finding your tribe, finding your network isn't just about making friends. It's about actually developing opportunity for everyone, right? So a music community is all the other musicians and the producers, the engineers, the venue owners, right? Anybody that's talking about the industry or involved in any way to support that industry, those folks around you, those can be in the government, they can be in your local music shops, they can be all of those things. They can also be online. So you really can look in so many different areas, but they all are a part of this overall community. So it provides broad support and knowledge that you can share and opportunities that are occurring. You just won't know about them unless you're tapped into these networks. So it's a whole bunch of different ways that this all provides benefit to you.
And it could be hard later too in life to, if you're not at the bars all the time, or if you're not at all these shows, to be a part of that music community. So, look up Songwriter Association. Got that out, okay? In Madison, in Boulder, in Chicago, wherever you are. Musician unions, meeting groups, open mic nights. I went to an open mic 2 weeks ago in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Lake Geneva Music Hall, packed. And everyone greeted each other when they came in. Frank, good to see you. Cindy, how are you? It was just, who cares what they sounded like? It was just a bunch of people getting together to play songs for each other. It was awesome. You could dive into communities like subreddits. We are the Music Makers. Facebook groups, if you're over 40. I found great meetups in Colorado for the cold plunges. There's plenty for musicians as well. Everyone shows up like-minded to share ideas. So don't be a wallflower. Show up, look for your community because they're already looking for you. You just need to say, hey, I'm over here.
Yeah. And let's add one more thing about the community that I think is important to know is that you have to make it work for you. And so, as you said, it depends on where you're at in life, how that is going to work. If you're a full-time performer, it can be really hard to go show up for everyone else's shows. It is the hardest part for me. I just had to sell my Coldplay tickets because I got booked for an event up in Vail. And it was heartbreaking to do that, but it was the right call because it's a lot of money and it's good for my business, right? So again, I'm missing out on something that was, really something I was looking forward to. But when it comes to local shows, it happens nonstop. With my students, they all have these shows and they want me to come and I really want to be there, but I'm booked too. It's a very challenging part. So for me, and I think a lot of people that are like that, I have to be texting everyone a lot. I have to be sending emails. I have to make coffee dates during the day with people and do that type of heavier lifting so that it compensates for the fact that I can't be there for their show. A lot of times I'll have people video their show so that I can watch it later so that I can still feel like I'm helping or being supportive, in my own way. Wherever you're at, like these young groups, I think about like what Seattle must have been like in the 90s, where they all were at each other's shows nonstop. They were all in each other's bands nonstop, right? The community experience for them at that age group is easier to do. So wherever you're at, just understand that there are different parameters you're going to be working with.
And after everything you said, this is what I got from that. Sometimes it's hard to go see my friends play shows. I just had to sell my Coldplay tickets.
Yeah, Chris is not going to be happy with me. And moving on from that, though, another opportunity for us all to be progressing as with mentorships or guides is formal instructions. This one, I think everyone should have one or two in their pocket at all times. This is just my opinion on that. But I think that if you have at least one or two could be classes, it could be workshops, it could be other programs that are offered in your community groups, but some sort of structured learning opportunities. One or two of these, especially if they're not time sensitive, so that you could just continue down another course whenever you have the time, I think is very useful, because then you're always learning. For me, I'm always reading a book. I'm always having one or two courses existing in my, but not more than that. Once you start trying to go too many, like, you won't get anything done. So somewhere in there's a sweet spot for everyone, depending on how you tend to be delegating your time, but finding some sort of ways to get these curriculums involved in learning things that you want to learn from these courses that other people have created. It saves you a lot of time and energy and loads the information into your brain like a quick upload.
I highly recommend for guitarists out there looking for something that will always show up and always get better, have new musicians to learn from, is pickupmusic.com. It is my guitar Bible lately. I show up every day because I know there's something new. I can keep track of where I was, and it's just that little win.
Learning the business and the marketing side of things throughout workshops and courses can even give you a ton of extra cash, because you might be making small choices that help earn a lot more. Sometimes we're just leaking money out of our pockets because we're making bad choices that we don't even know we're doing, especially in the tax world and the licensing world. So it's about making efforts to prevent the leakage of extra money, right? And then also just a couple. So, like I always say with these books that I read, sometimes you just get through all these hours of reading, but one thing just jumps out at you, and that one thing was waiting for you and needed you to be aware of it so that everything else can have its trajectory be changed.
And that, again, goes back to where you are in your life. So what you might get out of the book today might be something different in a year from now if you go back, because there's so much information in all of those books.
I didn't start reading until I was in my mid-30s. And I just want to say that so that people understand that, like, this wasn't like a lifelong thing for me.
Did you get held back in school?
I did in first grade.
I didn't start reading until I was 30. I mean, you accomplished quite a bit.
I mean, my childhood was full of a lot of challenges, that's for sure. But that's not really why I didn't start reading. I never felt good at it. And because of that, I never wanted to be near it. There's a weird thing that happens, but I don't know. Like, all of a sudden, around in my 30s, I started realizing how much I enjoyed learning itself, And so when I started doing audiobooks, that helped an immense amount, because I didn't have to feel like I was a slow reader. And what's weird is that as I did more audiobooks, I became a faster reader when I actually read books too. So I don't know how that works, but I just wanted to state that wherever you're at, some of these might come easier to you than others. And you might have to find ways for yourself to absorb these resources that fit you best with where you're at. I wish I could tell myself back in my 20s that you should spend more time reading. Just find something that you enjoy. And even if that's audiobooks, like, find something, because the farther you can push yourself when you're not quite ready, because it's worth it, I think will benefit you immensely as you progress.
Do you have some ideas for options that people could go, like, look for online courses or webinars, music schools?
Yeah, you don't need to go far to find a course online anymore. There is a course for every little thing in the music industry. And we are on Udemy with ours, and that's a good place to go. Yeah, just to look. You can just easily search into these Udemy type platforms and look for very specific. That's what I would also recommend, is when you're looking for these types of courses, this type of access into formal instruction, the more specific, the better. Coursera is another good one that has tons. Then there's also universities. A lot of universities are always promoting their programs by giving out intro courses for their university. And the one that comes to the mind most, that probably everyone here listening has had an ad come to them with is Berklee College of Music. They're always giving out like an intro course for this or that. Those aren't going to be as, I don't think, useful personally, because I don't think they're as specific as we should be looking. Those are more like, do I like this way that this school presents stuff, and do I want to go there? And a school like Berklee is very, very expensive, so they're doing a lot to try to sell you on that. But there's other places to find. Masterclass is another one that we've been members of. And I think the way they present stuff is incredibly well put together. And it can be very specific there too, actually. And it can be in little niches, like how to write better scripts and for writing books and for writing poetry. They have all these different specifics.
Masterclass has a huge library for musicians. Huge. Yeah. Hours and hours.
And the other benefit of that is like you're learning from like Michelle Obama,
Herbie Hancock.
Yeah, I mean, how amazing is that to hear from them? And that's why those kind of places are so incredible. And that can be also the specific part too. It can be like, I want to learn from blank. Can I go look and find something they've done? And that masterclass is the best place to look for very high profile people that have given their time to help other people learn how to do what they did.
What do you get if you take the L out of learning?
Ooh, I guess
you Sorry, you were going to answer that and I just stole your thunder. I'm so sorry. These morning episodes, I tell you. Well, we're talking about music quite a bit in this, but also about finances. And every skill, piece of knowledge that you get to pick up from formal instruction can directly impact your bank account. Learning to produce your own music saves you money, create new income streams as well. If you're learning about contracts and publishing, can prevent costly mistakes. But every bit of education is like money in the bank. So gaining interest in your entire career. Master of many, not a master of one. What is it?
You'd think after how many times we've talked about it, you'd have it memorized. A lot of effort is a lot of none. No. A master of juggling. No.
A jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
And it is true that we aren't trying, and again, we're not trying to do one thing. You can't be in this industry and do one thing. And that's really what we're dancing around with the way that you look for one of these mentorships or one of these types of influencers for your career is you need to figure out which ones you can fit into what you need and what you have time for right now.
And also make you more empowered to know your business.
100%.
There's not someone to steal from you. You don't have to hire someone to play better than you.
Yeah. Or maybe that's what you need.
Absolutely. And they become a mentor, or a mentor tells you can't do this. You need someone who has more of a guitar vocabulary than you do.
Well, so our last one is resources and self-study. And we've talked about this now a little bit, dancing around it with the others, but just to kind of give it its own little specific highlight, DIY resources that you can tap into anytime. Things like the books and the blogs and the podcasts like this and the video series and the websites that you can just get free content from. Those are easy ways to get some resources and self-study. These are always at your fingertips, right? And you sometimes can consume these in passive ways. And I think that that's also good because it keeps you just kind of moving around, dancing with new information, and again, keeps you in an inspired place. Sometimes we get those e-blasts from sides and her stuff is just so simple and inspiring. And that's sometimes what you need just to get going, so these are little like kicks in the butt, right? Self-education stuff, consuming things at your pace. These are really valuable to do. And as we've talked about already, that can be just an audiobook that gets popped down every time you get into your car for your commute to your show.
Also great podcasts like the DIY Musician Podcast, Music Business Worldwide Podcast, Don't Keep Your Day Job, Creative Juice. Rick Beato's awesome on YouTube. I don't know if you follow him at all, but he's got a lot of great stuff. What's that? Musician's Tip Jar. Chris Webb and Dave Tamkin. I mean, hopefully that's at the top of your list.
You need to be using these resources effectively. We all know that we can get into that YouTube hole and not get out of it for a couple hours. And you started looking and researching about how to put your pedal board together in a smarter way. And you ended up watching YouTube videos about people jumping off cliffs in Maui or something. So it's really important that you're using these resources effectively and staying focused with them. And so target your learning and try to stick to that when you're doing this. Also, take actionable steps from these. Don't try to consume a bunch of stuff and do nothing with it. You need to know what actionable things you can get out of this stuff And that takes a little skill, I think, sometimes is recognizing. I mean, YouTube has taught me a lot about home care. Like I've learned a lot about how to fix things in my house that I would have had to pay someone else to do. And I think I just took that extra time to learn those things. And I think that by getting the one goal going into it, like, oh, I need to learn how to replace this one little diode. I'm going to learn how to do that on YouTube and fix that one thing. If we can do that with our music career, I think it's very useful in this aspect of finding resources, is knowing what it is you're trying to get specifically out of it before you go into it.
Sides said that every post she makes, how does this get me one step closer to my goal? This is the niche that it's not about food, it's about music. So if we can say, hey, this is what we're going to focus on YouTube to get the floors done with equipment I don't own yet, and I have to go to Home Depot, I'm going to focus on that. So it's throughout your day, just kind of having that practice to switch your focus on what you want to accomplish. And those little active consuming knowledge habits, they start to form, and it's easier and easier to do.
All right. So with all this, let's try to give you some action step. What we'd like you to do is put one area where you feel like you need the most or some guidance on, and then take a concrete step today to get that personal help. I think a lot of us, we already know that some of these things are happening. So maybe by talking about this, it helps you clarify what those types are that you're getting your resources through, and maybe also identifying one that you don't have yet. And that might be the reason to pick it. The main thing with this, though, is that you do take action, that you do something towards getting a correct mentor or program that helps get you pushed forward. So take immediate action on this. Don't sit on this and then let it fade away like so many other pieces of information that come flowing to you. Make action, and then you'll get results. So choose your path, getting the personal guidance, and then make the call. Make that link, send that email. Do what you need to do to connect to that opportunity. Just get the ball rolling. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you spending this time with us and being a part of this community. It's our hope that you feel that sense of community here at Musicians Tip Jar, and that you'll help spread the word to make us all stronger. If you'd like to get a hold of us, what's the best way to do that?
musicianstipjar@gmail.com and musicianstipjar.com, where you can check out all the resources and discounts we have collected for you. Check out all our episodes now on YouTube. If you find this information useful, please rate and subscribe to the podcast and slam that like button so we can help keep you up on the finance side of your music business. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. What did you do with today's tips? Did you reach out to a mentor? Do you start a new accountability partnership? Let us know. Please share this episode if you found it useful.
It helps us when we build a community if we all share with each other what we're learning. And I really think that also can be useful. What we want to do is build a community here where we all can lean on each other. And it only works the more people we get, right? The more people we get, the better it works, is how I should say that. So please don't hesitate to send this to someone else who might also be in the same boat as you in looking for a way to rise the tide. As always, thank you for joining us. And remember, there is already enough for everyone. You just need to know how to get it. Until next time, on behalf of Dave Tamkin and myself, Chris Webb, stay happy, healthy, and wealthy. Every small step towards knowledge and connection is a step towards financial freedom. This is Musicians Tip Jar.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, business, or financial professional for individualized advice. Individual results are not guaranteed, and all discussed strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The hosts are operating on behalf of Musicians Tip Jar LLC exclusively.